Have you ever felt like no one actually knows you? The version of you that people talk about doesn't actually exist. Let that sit for a moment. The person your friends describe at dinner, the one your family refers to at gatherings, the one your coworkers talk about in the break room, that person is a fiction. And you have been living your entire life trying to be consistent with a character that was never real to begin with. Your friends have a version of you. Your family has a version of you. Your coworkers have a version of you. Your childhood neighbors have a version of you. Your ex has a version of you. Even strangers who met you once have a version of you locked somewhere in their memory. And none of them are actually you. Not one. What they have is a collection of moments, fragments, snapshots, reactions to situations that no longer exist, assumptions built on a version of you that was still figuring things out. They took those fragments and they stitched them together into a complete picture of who they decided you are. And here is the uncomfortable truth. That picture was never about you. It was always about them. Every person who knows you has built a model of you inside their own mind, and that model is not neutral. It is filtered through their own fears, their own wounds, their own unresolved stories, their own need for you to be a certain way so that their world makes sense. Your mother's version of you was shaped by her own unfulfilled dreams. Your father's version of you was shaped by his own definition of success. Your friend's version of you was shaped by who they needed you to be to feel comfortable around you. None of that has anything to do with who you actually are. And yet, you woke up this morning and you carried all of it. You made decisions based on it. You held back because of it. You shrunk yourself to fit inside it. You performed for it. You protected it. You spent enormous amounts of energy maintaining a reputation that was built entirely on other people's imagination. That is exhausting, and it was never yours to carry. Think about the last time you did something and your first thought was, what will they think? Not, is this right for me? Not, does this align with who I am becoming? But, what will they think? That is the moment the fiction wins. That is the moment you stop living your life and start managing other people's stories about your life. And the longer you do it, the more lost you become. Because here's what happens when you live for a version of yourself that doesn't exist. You start to forget who does. You start to confuse their expectations with your own desires. You start to mistake their comfort with your truth. You start to believe that the person they describe is the person you are supposed to be. And slowly, quietly, without even noticing, you disappear. Not all at once, not dramatically, just gradually. Decision by decision, silence by silence, performance by performance, until one day you look in the mirror and you don't quite recognize the person looking back. Not because something is wrong with you, but because you have been living for a ghost. So let me ask you something. Who are you when no one is watching? Not who you are at work, not who you are at family dinners, not who you are on social media, not who you are when you know someone is forming an opinion of you. Who are you in the quiet moments, when you are alone in your car, when you are lying awake at 2 a.m., when you are standing in the shower and your mind goes somewhere no one else can follow? That person, that version of you, the one that exists only in the private continuity of your own experience, that is the real one. And that is the one who has been waiting, patiently, quietly, for you to come back to them. Here's something no one talks about. You are allowed to be different from who they remember. You are allowed to have changed, to have grown, to have shifted in ways that make them uncomfortable. to have become someone they don't quite recognize anymore. That is not a betrayal. That is called living. People who knew you 5 years ago do not get to define you who you are today. People who met you in your worst season do not get to hold you to that version forever. People who built their image of you on one moment, one mistake, one fragment of who you were, do not get to keep you there. You are not a photograph. You are not a fixed point. You are a living, breathing, constantly evolving human being, and no one's memory of you gets to override your present reality. So here is your permission to be inconsistent, to surprise them, to contradict everything they thought you knew about you, to show up differently than you did last year, to want different things, to value different things, to be unrecognizable in the most beautiful way possible. You are not their story. You were never their story. You are your own. And now, the most important question of all. If you stopped living for their version of you, who would you be? If you removed every expectation, every label, every role you've been assigned, every reputation you've been maintaining, if you stripped all of that away, what would remain? That is the work. Not the performance, not the maintenance, not the exhausting act of being consistent with a character you never wrote. The work is finding your way back to the person underneath all of that. The messy one, the complex one, the one who is still figuring it out, the one who contradicts themselves sometimes, the one who is neither the hero nor the villain of anyone else's story. Just a person, real, unfinished, becoming. That person does not need to be explained. They do not need to be justified. They do not need to live up to anyone's version of them. They just need to be allowed to exist. So today, just for today, let yourself exist outside of their story. Make one decision that is entirely yours. Say one thing that is entirely true. Take one step toward the version of you that no one else has met yet. Because that version, the real one, the one that exists only when no one is watching, has been waiting long enough. Stop living for a version of you that was never real. Start living for the one that is, the messy, the complex, the unfinished, the real. That is who you came here to be, and that is more than enough. If this reached something in you, save it. Watch it again when you need it. Share it with someone who has been living for the wrong version of themselves for too long. And subscribe to Dragonfly Whisper, because every week we come back to the truth, one whisper at a time.